Just before this, so I can say, even though it doesn't apply so much to the people who are in front of me right now, but hopefully I feel I'm up to date with my grading for you guys. So look in ThinkWave for any indication of what you've got. If something looks a little bit suspicious, first of all look at the document, and I'll likely put a comment in. Bro, sometimes I think I did it for yours, Leah. Of I can see it's incomplete, but just for the purpose of getting it sort of in there and make sure that something's in there at all times. I've graded what I can see, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the final grade. If you get it done by today, it's not late because that's when it was due. I've often done it for in the past where uh, I'll grade it right for what it is right now, but the next one, but if you hand it in, it's a penalty for late. Um, so just have a check at that. Anything looks slightly off, check back in the document, see if there's any comments. There nearly always is. Um, right, okay. Right, okay, got you. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Do you know what? If you feel your handwriting is relatively legible, feel free to take a photo of it and put it on and copy it into the document rather than have to type it up. I'm actually okay with that. If you can, yeah, if you've got an iPhone, you've probably got a good camera, so that will be helpful. The other thing I wanted to just sort of point out uh, is that obviously you've got this here, which is a reasonably hefty book compared to the last time where it was paperback for the economics. This nice, lovely hardback copy, or at least I've got a nice hardback copy. I don't know if you guys have as well, but it does mean it's slightly heavy to carry around. So I just wanted to very quickly just show you something that I use, that I've found, and hopefully, well, that's from a while ago. Let's go for here. Um, so hopefully I can show you this reasonably quickly. I'll send you the email to the address to this. So I found that on Feedbook, a website called Feedbooks, you've got some very nice open source copies of, well, various things. These are obviously pay ones, but there's free public domain books, and in the nonfiction social sciences, there are a number of the ones that we are very much interested in. So I would recommend, if you wanted to use this, they are pretty well formatted. The Federalist Papers will be looking at various bits of it in that. A little bit further down, there's the US Constitution with all the amendments in it. And the Declaration of Independence, obviously, is something we will be using. And the Articles of Confederation, that's actually reading, your reading coming up. So there is ebooks. I use Google Play, Google Play Books, because there's a nice app both for the iPhone and for the tablet that I use. Just keeps everything synced up, and it means if I actually read it on my computer, it syncs automatically with my phone, so I can pick it up later on. And just means I've got it there, so I'm not carrying that around. It's just worth pointing that out, just in case you've not sort of come across it. Hopefully, you find that relatively useful. Okay, so back we go. Right. Thank you. I did manage to look at both of your comments on the Trump inauguration. Um, uh, I think you're going to be surprised, Leah, because I don't think you were particularly fluid, effusive with it, but you were actually more praiseworthy than Sila was towards Trump's inauguration speech. Sila had a very, and understandably, skeptic view of what was going on, which I completely justify. No, it wasn't praiseworthy, but I'm just saying in comparison, Sila was very scathing. All right, okay, and yeah, in comparison, you were positively gluing. Um, so um, yeah, what was sorry? uh, Sila, can you share just headline thoughts now that you've potentially had a couple of days to reflect on it? What sort of stands out in your memory?
Honestly, I kind of forget what I wrote, but I remember being shocked at what he referred to God a lot. I didn't expect that, and explicitly
Yep.
as the creator. That was kind of surprising.
Hmm.
It was, I think, actually a little better than I thought, but I wasn't.
No. Yeah. What about you, Leah? Just
Just my general thoughts on it.
yeah, yeah. Just what
Um,
struck you sort of 3 days ago?
well, same as Salad, how he mentioned God a lot and even mentioned the Bible verse. Um, and similarly, I wasn't persuaded, but I think I went into it with maybe a little bit of an open mind and was like pleasantly surprised by his um, mentioning of God in the Bible, but also wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a wait and see variety of thing when it comes to Trump. I just I've got my notes in front of me here. That I sort of took while I was doing it. There is this slight Britishness in me. That yeah, I'm naturally going to be a little bit more globalist than the average person. And the phrase is like, from this day forward, only America first. And go, oh, crumbs, right? Okay, that's quite something. And I think one of you mentioned the sort of the buy American, hire American sort of rhetoric. That sort of that was a specific phrase, but it was sort of came up a lot. And yeah, the references to God. Um, I straight away I happened to see on Twitter a lot of various people from the UK commenting on this before I actually got round to uh, watching the speech myself. So I was sort of knew that things were coming. Knew that things were coming, and one of the things, how glorious is it, the Psalm 133, how great it is when brothers meet in unity, and already had people going, you are aware that the United States is not Israel, and the Americans are as much as I love them. Okay, they're not God's people in that same sense. Just easy on the rhetoric. But Leah, I think what sort of made you a little bit more come across a little bit more open-minded was you did make the point of it was refreshing not to have a particular agenda being put up, and that um, after Obama and the full sort of bathrooms and LGBT and equality, this and da 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 da, it's actually refreshing to have someone stand up and say, I'm going to look. We're going to look towards Americans and essentially look towards hard work. I'm going to defend hardworking people, and there is something refreshing about that. And I think I commented, if you look in yours, I was reading something over the weekend by a guy called Peter Lighthart, and he just had a very interesting comment. Was that he doesn't share any of our values, but he does share our enemies, and that's not nothing. And actually, there's potential. Like I'm not saying that I'm uh, ecstatic for a Trump presidency. I'm clearly not, and I've spent a semester knocking pretty much every economic policy that he has ever thought of or ever entered into his mind. Um, but is he better than the alternative? I think he is. It's this slight thing, and I don't. What I want to try and stop myself getting into. You're probably aware of the weekend. Um, Spicer, Phil Spicer, the new communications director, came out and said this was the largest attendance for an inauguration ever. Period. And go, well, no, because 2009 was clearly larger. Like just, and then Kellyanne Conway, the campaign director, came out and made a comment. Made a comment that Spicer was just giving some alternative facts, and go, no, facts are there are facts, and then there are lies, not alternative facts. That's one phrase that's been too far. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not letting him get away with that in terms of my own feeling of it. I'm getting very annoyed with some liberal friends back home who are jumping onto every tiny little thing. But I'm needing to remember a little bit in this one of don't let my hatred for everything that the Democratic Party stands for give Trump any variety of a warm glow. Hold him responsible for where he's good. Take him to task when he's bad, and that sort of idea. Yeah. Any final thoughts, and then we'll consign that to a sort of memory dump. Okay. Then I just I've made a couple of comments, and I will when it comes in for that final question on the Locke essay. Just be aware when you're reading it. There's this thing called common grace, and Locke actually does this essay doesn't stand in contrary to biblical wisdom, and in fact falls in line with a lot of biblical wisdom. That's what we're looking at. But it doesn't mean it doesn't open worrying avenues, and I think we're actually reaping the harvest of a lot of the problems there. Okay, so so try and get that done. I'll have a look at it and make some more comments on it as and when I see it. So anyway, where are we on to today? We're on to America being founded. So the Declaration of Independence is what we're going to end up looking at today, and I want to give you a little bit of a background to what's going on. I'm going to leave to your own reading, looking up some of the dates and some of the sort of key times that sort of happened in this. But what I want to do is give a bit of an overview about what the problem was leading up to independence, what the issue in the colonies was, and try to sort of get that sort of idea down, and why these things. It's lesson 11. You're quite right. So trying to get down what was actually going on. What's the core political problem that's going on? And for that, let's see if I can get some variety of diagram going that sort of helps things out. So let's stop sharing that, and let's create a new whiteboard and see what we can do. Okay, so this is going to be, I'm not a good drawer at the very best of times, and then I'm drawing with a mouse on the screen, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Okay, in the political structure of the United Kingdom, okay, and this is still not dissimilar to where it is now, is all power is invested. Let's see, can I get this? Right. Okay. I feel like, a 3-year-old saying, but look, Daddy, look what I drew. All power is invested in the crown, and there you go. There's a fine example of a crown up there. Okay. So in one sense, Britain is a constitutional monarchy. There's the English Bill of Rights. There's the Magna Carta. There's a body of law that applies as in the system we're in now as much to the Queen of England as it does to me as when I lived there. But it's still, in one sense, an absolute monarchy. That all sovereign power, is held in the crown, and the crown delegates its power to at this moment in time to a parliament. Okay, so in the United Kingdom, you've got the crown, and then you've got sort of parliament in there. Okay, and then the people down there, and you've got like this sort of chain. So the parliament sort of delegates power to parliament. Sorry, the crown delegates power to parliament, which then delegates its power to the people. Okay, and that's sort of how it works, and that's how it's worked since parliaments were sort of originated in the United Kingdom. So that's the sort of the structure of it. Now, obviously, Britain, for a large portion of its modern era, has been an empire. Okay, and as an empire, what it's done is it sort of sends, either conquers places, actually not massively common for the United Kingdom. There isn't actually a huge amount of conquest going on. But what it tends to be is planting and trading and sort of slow economic takeover of different countries. And to just give the example, so this works equally for a number of others. Um, if the if the Britain created a colony in the United States in the New World, say Virginia, what it did was it sent people over there, and the people who were living there were governed by the crown. Okay, were governed by the king. The king was still the rightful ruler of that colony. Okay, so but instead of the king ruling personally, obviously the New World is a good couple of months by ship away. So the king doesn't rule in person, so he'd install a governor there. Okay, a governor who would then have some advisors, but that governor would be a steward of the power of the crown in that colony. Okay, so of the original 13 colonies, each of them had a governor appointed by the crown who acted as the stewards of power, stewards of the crown power in those colonies. Okay, so just worth pointing out then that if I were to do that, and apologies, I'm not putting any actual sort of wordy labels on this, but it's just it's the structure I want to get. So you've got in the colonies, so that's the governor, and the governor rules the people instead of as steward to the power of the crown. Okay. Now, one of the things, so the thing to keep in mind in all of this when is that is not what I wanted it to do. Okay, let's abandon that. Okay, is that all power is originated in the English system comes from the crown. Okay, and not actually from Parliament. Okay, the Parliament isn't the ruler of the isn't the crown isn't subject to Parliament. Parliament is subject to the crown. The other thing to just note there is that Parliament only rules over the people of the United Kingdom, and that's always been the purpose of the Parliament. Under the English common law system, Parliament represents the people it represents, and Parliament rules over the people it represents. Okay, so so Parliament, the one sitting in London from 1707, has ruled the peoples of England and Scotland. Okay, that's what that Parliament rules over. From 1801, then Ireland is included in that. Okay, now the problem comes with the death of Queen Anne. Okay, so just a brief history. We sort of did a little bit a couple of weeks back. Okay, but you have James I, Charles II, Charles I, who dies and who is executed at the end of the Civil War. His son Charles II, James I, James II. Then his son doesn't become king because there's the Glorious Revolution, the English Bill of Rights brings in William and Mary, and then it's the sister of Mary. It's the last of the Stuart kings, and that's Queen Anne. She never marries and dies heirless. Okay, and as a result of that, you've got a constitutional some sort of constitutional crisis in the United Kingdom, and what happens is you go back through the lines to try to find the closest male heir to the recently deceased queen, and that recently deceased heir, that closest male heir, happened to be George of Hanover, the Elector of Hanover in Germany. Okay, now that particular George, one of the issues with him is that he didn't speak English. Okay, so you've got an issue. He didn't speak English. He didn't really understand what British laws were. Okay, how British laws worked. Okay, I'm sorry, Christine. Okay, so he doesn't understand how British laws work. So imagine you're in that situation. Imagine, right, you're in King George's situation. And you come over and you're sort of coronated and you're told that you're king. Someone translates the coronation service into German, tells you what's going on. Um, what are you likely to do? What's how are you likely going to cope in your new role as King of England? You could talk to me, Leah, but that's yeah. So it's that sort of idea. See, oh, actually, Sila, I'm interested to hear what you were about to say because it's a little bit more subtle than that. But did you have anything further? Yeah, so that's one option. But remember the big the big rule about being a king, okay, is remember that there are more of them than there are of you. Okay, one of the the big things you need to keep in mind. One of the big limits of an absolute monarch is there's more of them than there are of you. Okay, uh, what would happen if he decided to turn England into Germany? Okay, probably not going to be a popular move. So the way he wants to keep the peace, he wants to do that, and it's give power to others, like not hand off the crown. But what he does is essentially says to Parliament, who the sort of the main people, okay, whatever you say goes. Whatever you say goes. Okay, that's fine. I don't understand what I'm doing. I'm assuming you have a good idea of it. Whatever you say goes. Okay. Um, and so what you see in this, what the problem you start getting is that all of a sudden, let's see if I can get this, uh, the power of the king stops being delegated, and Parliament starts to assume the role of the crown. Okay, it starts to slowly assume the role of the crown. So it's during the reign of King George that you get the role of the prime minister. The prime minister, who, if you ask most people in the United States, I would say, people think that the prime minister is the equivalent position to the president in the United Kingdom. I think a lot of people in the US have that understanding. And it's only at this time where that starts to become the functional understanding that the leader of government, the prime minister, starts to more and more become the ruler, the sovereign of the United Kingdom, um, and take on more of the role of the crown. Um, but the crown stays nominally in charge. So what does so then you've got a bit of then we end up with a little bit of a problem because here's the issue. Um, the Parliament is responsible and accountable to the people of the United Kingdom. Okay, the people of England and Scotland at that time. So the Parliament's responsible to those people. They're the people who vote for them. They're the people whose interests they're put in Parliament to represent. But they're now taking the power of the king. Okay, so if you wanted an easy way, say, of going right, okay, let's make life in the United Kingdom, let's make life for the people who are going to vote me, let's make their life a little bit more agreeable, let them more likely to vote me the next time around. An easy way of doing that is to try to oppress the people who don't represent, who you don't have to be elected by. Okay, and so what you tended to see was the Parliament starting through the power of the crown started to pass laws that acted on the governors and the people of the 13 colonies. Okay, so you've got one of the more famous ones of those was the allowing of the East India Company to have a monopoly on the tea trade, and to impose duties on the tea trade in the Massachusetts colony. Uh, why is that the most common one altogether now? Okay, what was the rebellion towards that? Was the rebellion towards that particular tax and duty? hoping I'm not teaching too much of your own history here. I am talking about the Boston Tea Party. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So that was the rebellion, the seizing of the East India Company's assets, and then dumping them into the river. Um, so you've got this, but you've got this sort of idea that the the Parliament are abusing the crown with the purpose of appeasing their own constituency, a constituency that is not there. Okay, and then and robbing money from the colonies, using the colonies as a source of revenue to do whatever they wanted to do for their own constituents. Okay, and that's the feeling that is growing in that time. And you can sort of look at it. There's a few things, hopefully, won't be massively new to you, but there's the French and Indian War that the colonists that were very much fighting on the British side of more or less won the war for Britain. Um, and instead of being rewarded, what felt like from the colonist position was that there were more and more taxes being brought in and exploiting exploiting those who are living there. Um, um, the the other problem with that, as we're going to see in a second, is that you've got is that these people over here, these sort of governors and the people in the colonies, definitely thought of themselves as English. Okay, and it's a bit like if President Trump decided that Californians were no longer going to be represented in the House of Representatives or in the Senate. We are deciding that we don't like any of you liberal lot down there. So we're going to remove all your representation, but we're going to keep you as a U.S. power. And go, no, there'd be a lot of people are going, but we're Americans. We don't get to be treated like this. We don't get to be overridden. We don't get to be told what to do without having a say in it. And that's what these people were thinking. Going, we're Englishmen. You don't get to treat Englishmen like this. Okay, and that's the growing annoyance that's holding up. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's then see what they say. Okay, so if you've got your we hold these truths handy, I'm just going to read out just the preamble, okay, of the Declaration of Independence. Okay, so I'll read it out. So if you don't have it there, you'll be able to hear it. Okay. Okay. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume the powers on earth, separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that they should declare these causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form, so as to them shall seem most affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind is more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms of which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces their design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferances of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter the former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid word. Okay, and then it's the list of grievances that come from the declaration. Okay, right. So, a couple of questions that I want from that, and hopefully we'll go in there. So, chip in quickly, please. Okay, first of all, right? Okay, if you're having a look at that, who is this addressed to? Who who who's been sort of called out in this? Sorry, it's page 30 of We Hold These Truths. Or should I say, who's being held responsible for the yeah, Leah. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. It's the king, okay? It's the people oppressing them. So I've said, so with this little diagram, I've been sort of saying that it's Parliament who are engaging in this. But one of the things I want you to just notice in this Declaration of Independence is that Parliament isn't referred to. Okay, Parliament isn't referred to. Okay, what the problem is that the colonists see who is meant to be in charge, who is meant to be looking out for their interests, who is meant to be ruling over them. It's not Parliament. And so whatever Parliament is doing, okay, then whatever Parliament's doing, they're putting the responsibility on it on the king. Okay, so maybe Parliament's passing these laws and raising these taxes and using the money to their own ends, but the Declaration is holding the king in contempt and saying it's your problem. This is you. You're the one causing the issue here. Okay, so that's the first thing I want you to notice about it. Okay, the second thing, right? Okay, quite possibly the most famous phrase in this. Okay, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Okay, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed with their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That they are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Quite possibly the most famous phrase written in American literature. Full stop. Okay. The question I would ask is self-evident. Okay. Is it self? Right. First of all, what does self-evident mean? When I say something self-evident, what am I talking about? I'm assuming obvious, yes, indeed, yeah, common sense. Right, okay. Is it obvious that all men are created equal? Oh, Leah, 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 Leah. Speak to me. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, I think it does. I think if you, how do we? It's true. I wouldn't say it's true self-evidently. Okay, why
Um,
do we know it's
when
true?
I heard equal, I was thinking the same. So all men aren't the same.
Or why?
Um,
Would you give a
but
reason?
yeah, I don't know
How
if
do
that
we know
makes
it's
sense.
true? Yeah, Leah. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all men are created equal is a profoundly theological sort of comment. Sorry, were you about to say something else, or no? Okay.
Well, we've been
Sorry.
told in
Yeah,
scripture
it's a
that
theological comment.
God
Okay. Um,
created us
so
and that
I don't think
He
it
loves
is
us all the
self-evident.
same.
If it were self-evident, okay, I don't think you would have the problems that you were seeing in this declaration. Okay, because if it's self-evident, I don't think you would need to have anything to defend. I don't think I think everyone would see this. Okay, um, so I point that out and we may get to think about this a little bit more. It either means that Jefferson was wrong in saying this, or sorry, Jefferson and Madison, really bad at this, remembering this. It is Jefferson. Okay, it either means Jefferson was wrong, or he's so under the assumption that Christian scriptures is the baseline truth that we work on that he is able to say it's self-evident. I tend to believe the second. I tend to believe it's the second that this is based in a Christian worldview of which it is just from a reading of nature through the lens of Scripture. It is self-evidently true that all men are created equal and offered these rights. Okay, and then from that, okay, I'm realizing I'm having to move quickly. Then from that, we have government installed. Okay, we have government installed for the purpose of maintaining those rights. Okay, so those rights are given by God, and in Jefferson's view, those rights are given for the purpose. So government is then installed for the purpose of preserving those rights. Okay, that's the purpose of government. And so when it comes to these list of grievances, okay, what they're saying is that this is what government's meant to do. This is what government is meant to do. But but what you've been doing is you've been making it. You've not been protecting the king. The King of England has not been enacting laws that promote liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He is quartering soldiers. That's taking away property. That's taking away things that you're allowed to that you should be allowed to maintain and control. He is not. He is putting laws that are not allowing you to protect yourself against the Native Americans. That's reducing your right to life. So there are issues. So it is these sort of issues that are sort of that are being pushed forward in this, and that's what government is for in this. Okay, now I'm not going to set this just now, okay, but I'm going to leave it in your mind, and we may it sounds remarkably like an essay topic for later this week, but we need to then think about. We've talked about Romans 13. We need to think a little bit about what does the Declaration actually reflect Romans 13. It doesn't, Romans 13 understanding allow us to do things that the Declaration of Independence does. Okay, the sort of devil's advocate, and I'm just going to leave this question, and we'll try to come back to it. Is that are we allowed to say because you're not working in our interest that all of a sudden we have a right to not submit to you? Okay, that's the sort of devil's advocate. I think we're going to come up with a hopefully positive answer. Okay, but that's what I'm going to leave you with. Okay. Anyway, in terms of work for tonight, and I've just hit my time, so very, very quickly, I'll send out a few review questions. Okay. I will also want you to read the Articles of Confederation, which are start on page 34 in your book. And just to sort of, this is the last question on the review questions, but I just want to quickly point out, Article 2 of the Articles of Confederation says that each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence in every power, jurisdiction, and right, which is not by this Confederation expressly delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. In other words, you do everything for yourself apart from the stuff that this article tells you is going to be done by the United States Congress. What I want you to do is, while you're reading it, just make a list of the things that are delegated to the U.S. Congress. Okay, make a list of what is delegated to the central power over the states, and that's what